Here's what you missed on Fathead and Candy in the morning. Weekdays 6 to 10 a.m. on My Country 96.1.
My Country 96.1 Fathead, Candy Roth. We are looking at a rough day. 4 to 8 inches of snow once that gets going. Right now, rain turns to ice, turns to snow. If you could stay off the road for a variety of reasons, not only is it dangerous, but once the snow really starts to come down, you want the plows out, you know?
I have to say, if you do have to do anything, do it early, because it's only going to get worse as the day goes on.
Agreed. And yeah, but it's not good out right now, so just be careful if you are.
No, but if you have to, earlier the better. Don't wait till later. It's going to be worse.
Absolutely. And I don't even think that happens after 12 o'clock. I think it happens before, where it really starts to come down and hit us, and then goes through the afternoon. So if you do have to do something, get out somewhere, do it here early on. You are right, Candy. I have an update, a small update since about a half hour ago when we discussed my eye this morning, Candy.
Yes.
So
You sent me a picture, and I'll never stop seeing it.
Oh, that is correct. I am sorry, but I was a little nervous. I needed your
No,
your
I
advice.
understand it, but I gave you my thorough examination, and I think you have an eye irritation, but not pink eye. But we will find out.
Well, so here's the update. I went in during the break. I went and got a bottle of water, and I said, let me just get in Aleve as well, because I know, obviously, if it's pink eye, whatever, that's not going to help. But you know what? Maybe if it is an irritation, if it is something going on where maybe in Aleve can calm something down. So I said, doesn't hurt. So I
Doesn't hurt.
Right. So I pop the Aleve in the water, and before I make my way back to the broadcast area, and by the way, I'm not saying the Aleve did this. I'm just saying in general, I go and I look in the mirror of the bathroom, and my eye is not as pink anymore.
I think it's an irritation. Because
Yeah.
if it was pink eye, it'd be getting worse and worse and worse. And
Correct.
You would be swelling below your eye, and it would be oozing not pretty stuff.
Right, drippy and crusty and all those things. But yeah, I looked in the mirror. I said, let me take a quick peek. And now a half hour later, since we first chatted, it is much less pink. So it might have just been a bad irritation. You're right.
It's an irritation, I'm telling you, honey. Put a little eye drop Visine in there, see if that helps you. My grandmother used to suffer from dry eye, just off on another tangent, where she had to use drops every day.
Yeah, and by the way, this is the same eye I've had an issue with prior in the last few months. I had a sty and some other things. And yeah, so, all right, anyway, enough about my eye. Hopefully, I don't have to go see a doctor today, though. All right?
Hopefully. I'm gonna say a little prayer.
I am going to take a sip of water, because even talking about my eye makes me a little woozy, Candy. All right?
Yeah, I know. You're a sensitive creature.
Yes. Yes, very much so. All right. So earlier in the show, you discussed your friend, was it Ellen, who canceled a trip? Who canceled the trip? Okay.
Yvonne.
All right. Yvonne canceled a trip, and she was supposed to fly today, which would have been a problem, obviously.
Right.
Just by chance, in our stack and stack of huge show prep that we get, there's an article about the most turbulent airline routes in the world and North America in general. Yeah. So a turbulence forecasting company called Turbly just released a list of the most turbulent airline routes. The worst in the world, the most in-flight potholes, if you will, is flying between Chile and Bolivia.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, that is number one. Now, no U.S. route made the top 10, but the highest one, the most turbulent route in North America, is the 442-mile flight between Nashville and Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. Yeah, as a matter of fact, 4 of the 10 bumpiest routes involve North Carolina. The most turbulent airport in the country is Portland, Oregon. Denver is
Oh.
second. And I'll tell you who's third, and I know this from history of flying. Las Vegas comes in third.
We had a great flight to Las Vegas years ago when we went. I'm trying to think severe turbulence, and I must have blotted it out of my memory. But that's nobody likes that.
I could tell you about the turbulence in Vegas because not only does it get windy there, but you also fly over the the Grand Canyon. You fly over the Grand Canyon in a lot of spots when you
Yeah.
leave Vegas, and it's definitely it's got a lot going on. By the way, the mountain ranges are the problem between Nashville and North Carolina because you're going over the highest peaks of the Appalachians.
True.
And you're crossing the jet stream, so it's like a whole thing. It's like a whole to do going on there with
Well,
that
you
route.
got to make the sacrifices if you want to travel. That's
If
all.
you want to get where you want to go,
Exactly.
that is true. Now, normally we do save what I'm about to tell you for later in the 8 o'clock hour, but it is so big that we must discuss it now. It is National Radio Day today.
Now, I know you feel the same way. I love radio. I love
Yes.
being on the radio. I have also always loved radio since I'm a kid. I would send every year for the ABC Top 10 at the year end, Top 100, whatever they did with all the disc jockeys' photos. And I loved radio from the get go. And I still do today. It's much different today. It's not quite the same like it used to be, but I love it.
Oh, it's definitely not the same. I do love radio, Candy. You know how I started by listening to Howard Stern when I was in like 7th grade. I used to I've told this story before. I used to take a 90-minute cassette.
Now,
right?
what year was that?
Let's see, 7th grade. I probably started listening in 6th and 7th. How old
'Cause
are you?
I was on the show from 1986, about 18 months. So from 1986 to not quite 88.
Now, well, I was definitely listening, but I started listening in probably 84, 83, 84, 85 in there.
Wasn't on there yet with him, but I too was still am a huge fan.
Yeah, and then I definitely heard you for sure because I kept listening. But I would take, before I go to school, like let's say 7th grade, I'd pop in a 90-minute cassette in my boombox. I'd start recording, and then the tape would flip over. I'd come home. I'd have an hour and a half of Howard Stern, and I'd sit and do my homework and listen to an hour and a half of the show.
I
That-
love it.
Yeah, that's
Loved
how
him. Still do. Great. No problem with that.
There's also a tape somewhere of me, even younger. I was probably 7, 8, 9, interviewing my father. I had a
Yeah,
tape recorder.
Can you find that, please?
I gotta ask him where it is. It's me interviewing him, like asking him what his job is, like what do you do for
I
a
would
living?
totally love to hear that.
I have to see
Please
if he
find
has
that.
it.
Please, please, please.
I have to see if he does have that. So, all right, here's some World Radio Day things. We know radio changed the world, and it still reaches over 80% of Americans every single week. That is a lot.
A lot.
The first commercial radio broadcast was over 100 years ago, 1920.
Ooh.
November 2nd, 1920. Now there are over 15,000 radio stations in the U.S. alone.
Wow.
By the way. Yeah. A poll a few years ago ranked the radio as the 11th most important invention of all time.
I wonder what the other 10 are.
Well, I have the top three. The top three
Oh.
were electricity, phones, and vaccines.
Well, those are very important things. Yes, I have to
Yes.
put them first before radio.
The Model T came out in 1908, but cars didn't get radios till the 1930s, and the first ones cost about $130, which
Wow.
is $2,300 today.
Would you like a radio in your car? Yeah, that'll be another 2,300. Thank you.
Can't even imagine. So I've known this, I'm sure you've known this, but a lot of people listening probably don't. The call letters for the stations, like we're WJVC.
Right.
So you either have to start with a K or a W. It's a military
depending.
thing.
on
Well,
what part of the country you're in.
that is correct. So it started as a military thing in the 1910s. So in general, stations that are west of the Mississippi River start with a K. And
That's correct.
stations in Canada and start with a C, and stations to the east of the Mississippi start with a W. And that's how it
W. That's
Yeah.
where we're sitting. Mm-hmm.
that's how it happened.
A little bit of information, little history.
Of course, 1 in 5 people say listening to the radio is a top little thing they look forward to. And, we love that. We have a lot of listeners who love this radio station, Candy. And
I love the live, hearing people talk like you and I about just everyday stuff. That's where I love. I love.
yeah, getting up, not knowing what breaking news there might be,
Yes.
chatting about life, and, just a little behind the scenes of everything. I love it.
Yeah. It's like,
yeah.
driving in the car and having a little bit of family along with you.
That's right. We consider all the listeners family for sure.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Broadcasting was originally a farming term. It was broadcast seeding, when you scatter seeds wider than normal. How about that?
Oh, I did not know that at all.
Yeah. So that's basically it. There you go. There's some of the facts and figures for World Radio Day today. And thank you to everyone for listening.
Absolutely. Thank you. Whoever found the frequency and brought us radio. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Candy, still plenty to do. Less than 20 minutes to your bald and the beautiful entertainment. National Day's Good News Stories coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. And if you can stay off the road, please do. If you don't have to go into work, we know there's people that do. A lot of the first responders and the nurses and the doctors. And there's people in jobs that must go in. But if you can stay home, work virtually, and spend a day with your kids also, it will be well worth it, because it is going to be not nice outside today.
Oh, it seems so long ago now that we had sunshine and nearly 60 degrees. Oh, that was just a day ago. What's happening?
By the way, I gotta text my snow guy, see if Mike, my snow guy, is around. I haven't spoken to him in quite a bit, Candy.
Yes, he might be busy. Too busy for you.
Let's hit the roads, my country, 96.1.
Fathead and Candy in the morning, weekdays 6 to 10 a.m. on My Country 96.1.